Thank you very much for joining our webinar this afternoon. It's on an introduction to ergonomic assessments. My name is Mike Sherman. I'm one of the principal consultants here at IHF. I'll hand over to Fabio.
Thanks very much, Mike. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Fabio, and I'm a senior human factors ergonomic consultant here at IHF. I'm also a chartered ergonomist and human factors specialist, registered with CIEHF, and a registered physiotherapist with the HCPC. And yes, you know, it's like I have an accent. I'm originally from Brazil. I'm very proud of it and have been working in the UK for a number of years now. And I promise my ergonomics is way better than my English here. I've spent over 20 years working ergonomics across Brazil, South America, Europe, and now in the UK. I work in this like automotive, manufacturing, oil and gas, technology, and many others. And one thing I have seen over and over again in every single industry is that when companies invest in ergonomics, people get hurt less, productivity goes up, and costs go down. It's really that simple. Today, I want to give you like a very solid introduction to what ergonomic assessments are, why they matter, and what IHF can do to help you. We will keep practical, and there will be time for questions, as Mike said. At the end, please use the chat, and I will try to answer everything at the end. So this is what you are going to cover today. So we start with some definitions because these things matters, and there's lots of confusion around terminology, especially in the UK context. Then we look at the risks to works, to organizations, and the bottom line. After that, I will walk you through IHF's approach and how we help organizations build a proactive ergonomics strategy. And we'll close with reference and the questions. It should be around 30 to 40 minutes of content. I will keep as conversational as possible. This, at the end, is a webinar, not a lecture, okay? So let's start with the basic. What's ergonomics? The International Ergonomics Association has a formal definition and talks about the science discipline concerned with the understanding of interactions among humans and other elements of a system. That is the academic version, and it's correct, like 100% correct. But let me give you the version I use when I talk to a client for the first time. Ergonomic is about making sure the work fits the person and not the other way around. Because when the work does not fit the person, things will go wrong. People get injured, they get fatigued, they make mistakes, and over time, those mistakes and injuries cost organizations enormous amounts of money. The discipline covers the physical side, how the body moves and loads, but also the cognitive side, like how much information someone has to process. And also the organizational side, things like shift patterns, workload, supervision. So today we are focused mainly on the physical side, which is where a lot of the most visible and mostly cost problem live. I started my career as a physiotherapist in Brazil. And what I quickly realized, working in the occupational health field, was that I was treating the same injuries over and over again. Shoulders, backs, wrists, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be better to stop this from happening in the first place? That's what brought me into ergonomics. And honestly, I've never looked back. And since then, I've been working in the ergonomics field. So what is an ergonomic assessment specifically? As you can see on the slide, it's the process of identifying, analyzing, and evaluation and prioritizing risks, physical, cognitive, and organizational, so that we can put in place effective controls to protect works and keep operations running safely and efficiently. Now, why I'm being so specific about this? Because in the UK, ergonomic risk assessment is not just a good practice. I mentioned UK, but I'm sure that's like this is like most of the countries. It's not just a good practice; it's a legal requirement. In the UK, under the Management of Health and Safety at Work regulations, Employers have a duty to carry out a suitable and sufficient risk assessment. That include ergonomic hazards, manual handling, display screen equipment, repetitive tasks, awkward postures, and all of that falls under this obligation. I want to say something here that I think that's really important as well. Many organizations I have worked with, from large multinationals to the smaller companies, they do have the risk assessments. They simply tick the box. But what they are missing is a systematic, structured approach to what actually identifies the real risks and leads to, of course, the real controls. That's the gap we are talking about today. So let's talk about what is happening to workers. So according to HSE, most recent data, this is about the 24 and 25 figures. Musculoskeletal disorders, the MSDs, affect 511,000 workers in Great Britain and accounted for approximately 7.1 million lost in work days. 7.1 million. That's not a small number at all. And what is MSD? We are talking about back pain, shoulder injuries, injuries to the tendons, carpal tunnel syndrome, conditions that affect muscles, tendons, nerves, and joints. Conditions that in many cases are entirely preventable with the right ergonomic approach. I spent more than 2 years actually working in a large logistics company here in UK and Europe. And manual handling and repetitive tasks risk was absolutely central to everything we did. The sheer volume of movement in those environments means that even a small inefficiency in how a task is designed compounds into thousands of injuries and opportunities every single day. What I learned there is that ergonomics at scale is not just about individual assessments. It's about designing the right systems and then checking them continuously. Poor ergonomic design also increases the risk of accidents and incidents beyond MSDs. Fatigue, distraction, poorly designed equipment, all of these contribute to errors. And in some industries, at IHF really know because we lead with like a very high hazard industry. In some industries, these errors can be catastrophic. There's a research by Crawford and colleagues in 2020, and where they say that it's very clear that early intervention is critical. If you catch a risk early, you prevent it from becoming a chronic condition. Once someone develops a chronic MSD, returning them to full capacity is much harder and way more expensive as well. So this another slide is very important as well, especially for anyone in the audience who manages health and safety compliance. The UK has a very well-established regulatory framework for physical ergonomics. The key ones are these ones up there on the slide. So it's about manual handling operations, regulations, GSE regulations, workplace regulations, and the poor. These are not optional guidelines. Again, these are legal duties. The manual handling regulations are probably the most commonly relevant in industrial and logistics environments. They require employers to avoid manual handling where possible, and where is not possible, it needs to be assessed and the risk reduced. So the GSE regulations apply to anyone who uses a screen as a significant part of their work, which is most people in office or even in control rooms, environments. And poor is often overlooked in the ergonomic context, but it requires that work equipment is suitable for people using it, which is like very much an ergonomics consideration. Now, I have worked across Europe as well, and particularly for international clients. The EU directives in the, as you can see in the footnote here on our slides, are worth knowing about. They are the equivalent framework across EU member states and cover the same areas. So for clients with operations in both countries, UK and Europe, or even like APAC or like other areas of the world, it's very important to be aware at least, of like how this laws change and requirements change. Because if, for example, for manual handling, even in Europe, like we have like very different limits for different countries, or sometimes considering age, sometimes consider gender. So it's important to be aware of your local regulation. So I think it's time to talk about like something very important. Let's talk about money. So because this is often what get the attentions of the senior leaders. So the agency report that in 2004-25, 40.1 million working days were lost in the UK due to the work-related illness and injury. The estimated cost of injuries and ill health from working conditions is 22.9 billion pounds. That's the national picture. MSD alone accounted for 27% of all work-related ill health and 20% of all working days lost. That's a huge proportion. It's really big. And much of it is preventable, as we said before. But there's something a little bit beyond the absence that I always like to bring up. It's called presenteeism. It's people who are at work, but not performing at their best because they are in pain or uncomfortable or fatigued. And there's a study published in the journal Ergonomics by Washington and colleagues estimates an average productive loss due to the presenteeism of over 4,000 pounds per year in the UK workplace. And the CIPG survey shows that 25% of works name MSGs in their top 3 causes of absence, and that presenteeism has actually risen because of the homework as well. That's the new pattern. I saw this pattern very clear when I was working with some corporate clients, particularly with the large tech companies. Home working was creating a whole new wave of DSC-related issues because people were working from kitchen tables, sofas, inadequate setups, and because they were at home, it was less visible. So they came into the office complaining about the neck, pain, shoulder, issues that had been quietly building most of the case for months. The financial case for ergonomics is very strong. And the good news is the investment required to address most ergonomic risks is genuinely modest compared to the cost of the problem. So this is where IHF comes on. What we offer is an enterprise-wide, integrated, proactive ergonomic risk management. And I really like to emphasize the word proactive because the default in most organizations is the reactive. Something happens, someone gets hurt, so there's this flurry of activity. So what we want to help organization do is to get ahead of that. The shift from reactive to proactive is not just better for works, it's better for the business. You avoid the direct cost of injuries, you avoid enforcement action, you avoid litigation, and you build a culture where people feel safe and valued. That has a real impact on morale, engagement, and retention. That's a big thing on these days. So IHF is a registered consultant with the CIEHF, which is the Chartered Institute of Ergonomics and Human Factors, which is the UK's leading professional body in your field. That registration means that we meet professional standards, we are accountable, and our work is grounded in the best available evidence. We are a very multidisciplinary team. Our consultants bring together backgrounds in ergonomics, physiotherapy, human factors, engineering, psychology, and to be very honest, that breadth matters because ergonomic problems are rarely one-dimensional. A manual handling issue in a warehouse, for example, might look like a training problem sometimes on the surface, but actually trace back to a very poorly designed workstation or to a very inefficient process. What I, Fabio in this case, personally bring to that combination of physiotherapy ergonomics, I can understand how the body works, how the injury develops, and how to assess risks in a way that's clinically credible. I have used tools like Ruler, Reba, Mac, Art, ARP, RAP, Okra, NIOSH, you can name it, across a huge range of environments, from automotive assembly lines back in Brazil to huge fulfillment centers in Europe, to corporate offices in the UK. So the breadth of experience of our team means we can adapt quickly to any context. What is very important as well from IHF, our expertise spans the full breadth of ergonomics, physical, cognitive, and organization. But for today's webinars, as we said before, we are focused on the physical side, which is where ergonomic assessments are most immediately impactful. I want to mention something about the industry you work, because I think it's very relevant. IHF has deep experience in high hazard industries, energy, oil and gas, automotive, nuclear, defense, mining. I personally have worked in several of these, including like companies back in Brazil and here in my early career, now across the UK and Europe as well. Why does that matter for ergonomics? Probably is your question. Because in those environments, the stakes are higher. A fatigue-related error, like in an office environment, for example, might mean a report goes out late or someone gets hurt, of course, but a fatigue-related error in an offshore control room could be catastrophic. So their ergonomic principles are the same, but the consequence of getting it wrong is completely different. That risk awareness is embedded how IHF works. So let me walk you through and how we actually work. So we divided this in 3 stages of our ergonomics assessments process. So first will be the identification. This is where we go in and look. So we can do like very throughout like screenings and assessments, whether that is the work assessments in an office environment or home work environment, or full task analysis in an oil rig platform or industrial or healthcare setting. We are looking for where the risks are hiding: awkward postures, repetitive movements, heavy loads, poor equipment, design, inadequate lighting, things that people often stop noticing because they haven't been doing this for sometimes for many years. I remember a visit I did for logistics clients. Their works had been loading a particular shelf configuration in a particular way for so long that nobody questioned it anymore. But when we record, we take a video in the task and analyze the postures, we noticed that rule scores were in the action required zone. The fix was very simple: a modest change to shelf height and a small piece of equipment. The works themselves said we never even talk about raising it. We just got like used to bending down. We thought that this was the way to do it. So that's exactly what the identification phase is designed to catch. So what leads us for the second phase, the analysis? We do not just flag problems. We dig like into the root cause. Why is the posture awkward? And is the equipment design? Is the workstation layout? Is it about the task sequence, or is it about a training gap? We use validated observational tools and, where appropriate, biomechanical analysis to give our findings proper evidential weight. And the most important one, the third phase, the control. This is where we can add the real value. We develop targeted, practical, cost-effective controls, not generic advice, specific actionable recommendations that are proportional to the risk and realistic to implement as well, which is very important. We haven't seen too many ergonomics reports just gather dust on a shelf because the recommendations were too vague or too expensive to be implemented sometimes. But our job here is to make it easier for organizations to act. So address with recommendations that actually feasible, that is realistic to the company we are assessing, of course, and causing a real good impact. So let's talk about what we can actually expect to gain. The research literature is quite consistent on this. Malglag and colleagues, in a systematic review published in the Human Facts and Ergonomic in Manufacturing Service Industries, found average improvements of 66% in productivity, 44% in quality, 82% in safety records, and 71% in cost benefits following workplace safety and ergonomic initiatives. These are not marginal gains. And other studies, like Rivers and colleagues in a systematic review, found that ergonomics interventions typically pay back within less than 1 year. That's incredibly strong return on investment for something that is also the right thing to do for your people. In my experience, the organizations that resist investing in ergonomics often do so because they see ergonomic assessment or ergonomic report just as a cost. But when you show them what the injury costs, what the absence costs, what even the presenteeism costs, the insurance, the legal exposure, and then show them what a structured program costs, the conversation changes very quickly because it is like feasible, it is important to have, and it will bring like this return of the investment for sure. So beyond the financial case, ergonomics generally improves people work lives. So, and in a study from Machado's in 2023, and they put like very well, ergonomic intervention play a vital role in creating safe, productive, and employee-centric work environments. And I can say this from my own experience, both as a physiotherapist and ergonomist. When someone has been working pain for months and you make a simple change that removes that pain, the effect is profound. It's not just a physical thing anymore. It changes how they feel about their job, about their employer, about coming to work. So the human element is something I feel very strongly about here. And on the compliance side, a structured ergonomics assessment program is also your best defense. The management of health and safety at work regulations require employers to demonstrate due diligence. So if the HSE comes knocking or if a claim is made against you, you have documented systematic assessment and evidence of the action taken is what protects you. Ignorance is not defense, but demonstrable effort is your best defense for sure. So before we move to the end of our presentation here today, I want to mention something I'm genuinely proud of. IHF won the Innovation Award at the CIEHF Awards in 2024. The Chartered Institute of Ergonomics and Human Factors is the pinnacle of professional recognition in our field in the UK. And winning that award is a reflection of the quality and creativity of the work this team does. When you engage with IHF, you are working with a team that does not just apply standard process. We genuinely push to find better, smarter ways to help organizations. That culture of innovation is something I was drawn to when I joined IHF, and it shows in everything we do. So I'm not going to read through all the references here. They are there for your information, and they will be available after the webinar. But I do want to say that everything we have presented today here is credible, UK relevant evidence, HSE statistics, CIEHF guidance, peer-reviewed journals, and we have been very deliberate about that. So I really would like to thank you very much for joining us today. I hope this has given you a clear picture of why ergonomics assessment matter, what the risk looks like, and if you don't address it, then how IHF can help. If anything I have said today resonates, whether it's a specific challenge you are facing, or a compliance question, or just wanting to understand what an assessment would involve at your organization, please do reach out. You can find us at ihf.co.uk. My details are available through the IHF website as well. And now I would like to open to your questions.
Thank you, Fabio. That was great, really interesting. A few questions to go through. Could you talk us through some of the different types of ergonomic assessment tools?
Yeah, we have like a number of ergonomic assessment tools now. Like since the first ones, like ruler, rib, the NIOSH equation for lifting. So we have like different tools with different levels and for different situations. one of the things I see sometimes is many companies, and I saw this happening like when I was reviewing some ergonomic reports for a company I was doing like some consultancy, that like people sometimes just use same tools to assess like all the same tasks when it's like not even applicable. So we need, the first thing like is go on in the field, make the observations and try to understand how we can use a different tool, for example, to justify what we are seeing there, not just use the tool as the only way to assess. The best assessment is your expertise, is your experience in the field, is understanding, and of course, who else is the best person like to tell about their job than the workers? So everything starts with like very clear and basic communication with your workers and using tools, yes, but like as justification. But just to go like more straight to the question itself, we have like these tools that were developed like basically in studs in the past. Most of them are equations where you cross data between repetition, loads, exposure to like some things, and you have like a final result. So these you can, and even the ones like HSE recommend here in the UK are more based on this. On these days, we have like many, even like AI tools, video recording tools where you can replace things and they can make it like faster, like more visual, but they have like the most of the time the same principle. It's crossing information like about repetition, load, exposure, like, and also considering postures then can be considered awkward, for example.
Fabio. The next question is, what is your view on the use of AI tools for ergonomic mapping or assessment?
I think that all these tools on this day is like are going like it's so beautiful to see. Like it's you can impress your client showing like videos and like how someone is like at some point is at risk or not. It's nice to use as a visual, but I see these tools more like a screening thing that can highlight like the surface of some risks. But as we were talking at the beginning, even like manual handling issues is not just one thing. If you don't have an expertise, if you don't have like um, a multi-professional team, as we have, like where you have like different views, like engineering views, you have someone like specialized more in biomechanics, or someone that understand how the impact of the organization of things are over this. AI is not capturing all this. It's having your boots on the field, like basically going there, checking, talking to people, understanding the challenge, because AI is good. It's good. Like I think it's a very good like resource to use it, especially on trainings or even like for some level of assessments. But the expertise cannot be replaced yet.
That's very interesting. Thank you. The next question, with the way that we work is changing and industry is changing, what do you think are going to be the next kind of ergonomic challenges?
Well, we are already facing, as I mentioned during the presentation, like let's talk, for example, for the TSE assessments. We had like a big like shift of people working from home, work at the office after COVID. Like everyone just went to start work from home, and this is like reflecting lots of good and bad things, good and bad sides. And now like many companies want their employees back into the office. So you provide people like the opportunity to work from home and like manage their own life, like in many ways, like for 5-6 years. And now companies want like they gradually come back to the office, like 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week. And this is like being like a very it's more like just a physical, like ergonomic problem, but a social issue already. Like people like even like move like to another countries or move to other areas of the country, like and going to the office is not in their plans anymore. So I think it's the first challenge companies are facing is convincing like their employees to get back to work, like at the office, I mean. And it is challenging. It is really, really important to do this like in a good way. And if you want to keep like employees working at home as well, provide them with equipment, so provide them with like resource as they can have good setting or with like a proper ergonomic assessment from a specialist. So this is the next challenge. And I would not say a challenge, but we need to see as well how the things will gonna be is with the more use of robots and AI. How this will impact work, how this will impact the current situation. Probably this will be the big challenge that ergonomics will need to face and adapt to move to the next level.
Fabio, we have time for just a couple more questions. So the next one is, you mentioned that ergonomics means fitting the work environment or workplace to the worker rather than the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
What should be done or what can be done in cases where constraints such as space limitations hinder workers being able to adapt ideal or ergonomic postures?
I need to be very honest here. Like, I think in general and as a goal, we need to use this concept, like adapting completely the workplace to the work. But we do understand that sometimes this is not achievable and would like maybe impacting huge costs. And I think the way it's the balance. As much as we can adapt and reduce risks or allow like and here we would like even start to talk about accessibility, like in making like people be able to be at work independent of they have like some physical restrictions or like some impairment. And but as reasonable as possible, like we should try to adapt. But it, for sure, it will have like some exceptions.
Thank you. And the final question before we wrap up, if you could get everyone to change just one ergonomic habit immediately, what would it be and why?
Posture alternation. Like there's not such a thing as the best chair. Let's say like just about the office. I think it's a very easy example to understand. You can have like the most like beautiful and with like all the adjustments possible in a chair, but like the human body is not like made to be like in one single posture during a whole day. So we need to alternate postures. If you work sitting, you need to have the opportunity to stand up a little bit, walk around, and do something, alternate your posture. So in the office now we see like this trend to like sit stand desks. That was very useful, but it's important to go for a walk, go to if you want to talk to a colleague instead of like just like Slack, then make a quick walk, go there, say hi, and change your posture as much as you can. I think like and of course for the other way around as well, for people that works standing all day, like sometimes in the same workstation, it's important to have breaks, pauses where they can sit, where they can stretch a little bit. So it's movement. Like if I could say one thing, is movement.
Thank you, Fabio. That's
Thank you.
all the questions that we've got for you today.
Pleasure.
So just to make you aware, thank you very much for paying attention and joining us today. We have a few more webinars coming up in our program. On the 21st of May, we have predictive fatigue risk management. On May 28th, we have human factors integration in UI and UX. On the 25th of June, we have a webinar on an introduction to incident investigation. And then on the 6th of August, I'm back on safety critical task analysis to do an end-to-end walkthrough of the FCTA process. So details of all those webinars will be on the IHF website. So please join us if you can for those. And then finally, I would point you towards our Human Factors Maturity Tool, which we have on our website. This is a completely free report that can be produced for you. It's completely customized. You complete 11 questions and the report will be sent to you. It will identify where you're particularly strong in terms of human factors as an organization, and also give you opportunities for improvement and some prompts for how to start that journey. So I'd recommend you take a look at that when you have time. Thank you very much for joining. That's everything for today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fabio.